Good afternoon, everyone. I am absolutely delighted to be back in Wolverhampton and especially to be joining you this afternoon. I can see that you're sitting very nicely, so that is exciting for me too. And let's get on with it. I'm going to start with sharing a quote. I see the quote that you had up, the Nelson, can I just have a look at this? The Nelson Mandela quote, thank you very much, that says, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Thank you, the most powerful weapon that you can use to change the world. And so the first quote that I want to share with you is this: the circumstances that surrounds a person is not important. What is important is how they respond to it. I'm just going to say that again. The circumstances that surrounds a person is not important. What is important is how they respond to it. And I start with that quote because I want to share something of my own background with you. I was born in Montego Bay, Jamaica, and I grew up there. I was born in what would be regarded, what we called then, a tenement yard. Now, we don't talk about tenement yards here, but perhaps the nearest thing we get to a tenement yard here is like having this huge, big estate that is all run down. You know what I'm talking about? Nod your heads if you do. Otherwise, I think you don't. Okay? Yes. And who likes Bob Marley? Who's heard the song? Yes. So you must have heard, I remember when we used to sit in a tenement yard in Trenchtown. So you've heard the phraseology before. And that's where it comes from. It's this huge, big estate. It's the equivalent here. Growing up there in Montego Bay, it wasn't huge, but you had lots of little wooden houses on this big spread of yard. We all shared toilets and we all shared shower facilities. Shower facility is a sort of made-up shower facility. So you have this little hut, and think of a can. Think of a bean can where you bore some holes in it, and you put the hose. You put the hose in it, tie the hose into it, and that's your shower with corrugated zinc around it. So I'm just trying to set you the picture of where I have come from. And we used to walk a long way to school because our folks believed in education. They themselves were not educated in terms of having gone to school, but they were wise and they wanted us to be educated. And so that generation, our parents' generation, did everything they could within the law in order to make sure that we got an education. We wore to school uniforms, and I'll tell you this. Uniforms on a Monday was crisp, often had pleats in it, and by Friday your pleats were still there because we took such pride in our uniforms. So when we sat down, we did this and then we sat. So school was not just the place where we learned maths and English and geography. School was also the place where we learned deportment. Because not only did our parents tell us to make sure we looked right when we left home, but also at school, the expectation at school was that you would be tucked in and you would look presentable. So if you had torn your clothes, you would have stitched it up before getting back to school the next day. So all those little things. What was interesting, though, are shoes. Our parents could only afford one pair of shoe. Maybe you would get one pair of shoe twice per year if you're lucky. Usually it's one that lasts you. And for school, it was what we called crepe. Now, you call it something different here. What do you call it here? The sort of things that they play in. What is the thing that they play in with them? It's not really trainers. Pumps. Yes, I think it's the pumps. We call them crepe in Jamaica, and that's what was bought for us to wear to school. Now, of course, your feet grow. And when your feet grow, start getting a hole in it. And I tell you this, I had to wear mine to school with a hole in it. The hole got bigger, the children laughed even more, but the circumstances that surround you is not important. Okay? I was going to school to learn. It's interesting, I can look back at some of those who used to laugh at me and see who laughs the loudest. Not that I do now, but if I had to. So the point I'm making is, whatever circumstances you find yourself in, you have got to have a sense of who you are, or more importantly, who do you want to become? Who do you want to be? What do you want from life? And then you start at a very young age. We all said, we wanted to be teachers, we wanted to be doctors, we wanted to be whatever. And I tell you what, from the moment we hit secondary school, we started working at whatever it is that we wanted to become. We were going to become that. And it doesn't matter if 10 years after you've become that, you change your mind. That's okay. The important thing is that you are focused and you're working towards something. My daughter, when she was 4 years old, she wanted to be a vet. She wanted to be a vet. Great. And then she got older, she said, oh, actually, I think I'll be a doctor. And then she hit, what year was it? I think she was doing her GCSEs or the first year of A-levels, that first year. She found herself a group of friends. We changed school. She found herself a new group of friends. She said, she came home one day, she said, Mommy, my friends say studying for a doctor is going to take too long. So I think I'm going to be a nurse. Now, there's nothing wrong in being a nurse, but I looked at her and I said, sweetheart, there is no way you're going to be a nurse. You have the ability to be a doctor. You have always wanted to be a doctor, so you better get rid of your friends. She graduated as a doctor a year ago. So what I'm saying to you is, you need to stay focused on what it is that you want to be, what it is that you want to become, what it is that you want to do with your life. You need to know, so that when others around you tell you that you can't, then you can have that last smile inside you that says, actually, I will show you. I know that I can be who I want to be. So I went through school. I passed my, what we had then, 11 plus exams, which we did. Went to the equivalent of grammar school. It's called grammar school, Montego Bay High School. And but my folks, they were poor, and so they couldn't afford to keep me on at school. So what do? I still went. It meant that I didn't have enough to eat. When I got to school, I was often hungry. There were one or two people who knew my situation, would sometimes share their lunch. It also meant that there were times when I had to walk home or to school in the heat because I couldn't afford transportation costs. And I did it. I then, at a very early age, I was about 14 when I felt that I was being called to be a minister of religion. And I sort of pursued that along the way. And I was ordained a priest in 1994 when women were first allowed. Because bear in mind, all this time within the Church of England, only men are allowed to be ordained. Right, sir? Only men have the privilege of being ordained. Women, oh no. And so, as women who felt that we were being called by God, again, we stay focused. The circumstances that surrounds a person is not important. What is important is how they respond to it. When you have the confidence of God's call, then you respond in faith. It's like in the Old Testament when Abraham was told that he was going to be the father of many nations, and yet his wife couldn't get pregnant, and yet he believed and he moved and he followed God's call. So the sense of faith and trust. In 1994, I was ordained as a priest in this diocese, in Lichfield Cathedral, and that was when women were first allowed to be made priests. In 2000, I worked in the Wolverhampton area, then West Bromwich, and covered a fair bit of the Lichfield diocese. I then moved to London and worked in London for some time. In 2007, I came home one day and my husband said that there was a neighboring bishop, Bishop of Guildford, I think it was, who was trying to reach me. And I thought about it, and I thought, the only reason the Bishop of Guildford could be trying to reach me must be to ask me if I would like to take up a job opportunity in his diocese. And I said, I don't want to leave what I'm doing now. So I decided not to respond to his call, his message that he left. And then on the Saturday, the phone rang, and I foolishly picked up the phone, and he was on the phone. And he said, Her Majesty the Queen would love to appoint you as one of her chaplains. And I said to him, you're joking, aren't you? And he said, no. Anyway, I still sort of felt that he was probably having a laugh about it, never. But the letter came confirming it. That was great. And then about 3 or 4 days after that letter came, I had a phone call from someone that said, Her Majesty would love to have the pleasure of you for dinner at Windsor Castle and to sleep over. And I thought, someone is playing games with me. I bet someone has heard that I've been appointed, and they thought they would, make this phone call. So then the person said, here's my telephone number. If you have any questions, you can call me. And I thought, I'm not going to call this number because then they'll know that they've called me out. I'm not going to think about it. But then the letter came. And I say to my husband, this is the mother of all sleepovers at Windsor Castle, an amazing experience. They actually told me that I could bring my chauffeur as well. So I said to my husband, darling, you can come as my chauffeur. He didn't quite stay in the chauffeur quarters, he stayed in our quarters. But it was just an amazing experience. This is a little girl who grew up in poverty, but who had a real sense of calling and who followed that call. And then I applied for a post as the chaplain to the Speaker of the House of Commons. And that also included working at the Abbey and another small church, St. Margaret's Church. And I remember the press having a furore because for the first time they decided to split the job. Parliament, the Speaker said they wanted to have me, and the Abbey Church said no, they wanted to have somebody else. And so the press made a field day of this. One of the things the press did, I think it was the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail created 2 columns. In one column it said, the Oxford graduate, in reference to the other priest. No mention of the fact that I also have a degree. The heading on my column was, the girl from Montego Bay. Now what they don't know is that one day when I write my autobiography, the title of my book is going to be The Girl from Montego Bay. So they've given me the title. So, I'm not going to roll around and feel awful, how dare they. I'm going to use the situation. So do you see where I'm going? The circumstances that surrounds a person is not important. What is important is how they respond to the situation that you find yourself in. Just before I left college, someone gave me a poster. On that poster were these words: do not go where the path leads. Go where there is no path and leave a trail. Do not go where the path leads. Go where there's no path and leave a trail. I would like to think that that's what I have been doing. Not just following any old route, but creating new routes that says this is possible. Someone of Vietnamese origin said to me about 3 years ago that she was at a crossroads in her life, wondering what to do. And she saw me on the television, and she remembered saying, if she can do that, then I can do that too. She is now ordained. So I think what I want to do is to encourage you in the paths that you take. But make sure you take a path. Someone once said that if you don't know where you're going, then any road will get you there. And if you go along any road, then you're going to be going up and down and all over the place. It's going to take you years instead of being focused and going down the route so that you can arrive at where it is that you want to be. Not where somebody else tells you to be, not where somebody else wants you to be, but where that you want to be. So it's about growing in confidence. My nephew had this written over his desk. I will excel. I will achieve. I will overcome obstacles. I have the potential for greatness. Every single one of you must see yourselves as having the potential for greatness. For greatness. After I was appointed chaplain to the Queen, I saw an email, and it came from someone who used to laugh at me at school, laugh at my toes being out of my shoes, etc. And she had sent an email to a group from the school saying, "Do you remember so-and-so? She's been appointed at this. Perhaps this is what she was practicing for," because they also used to laugh at me, the fact that I didn't speak as broad a patois as they did. And so, and that one of the persons who the email was sent to is good friends with my sister who lives in California. And so my sister forwarded it to me, and I had a lovely little laugh at the thought. So I think what I really want to do is to say, don't allow anyone to tell you that you can't achieve and become the best that you can be. Take time away from the noise and the clutter, the things in your ears, whether it be phone or your iPods or whatever other things, the Game Boys, whatever it is that you do. Take time. Turn the telly off. Turn the music off. Take time by yourself to say, look in the mirror. Michael Jackson did a wonderful song that I like. He's done several that I like, but in particular, the one where he says, if you want to make a change, take a look in the mirror and make the change. In other words, be the change that you want to see. Nobody else will do that for you. You will have to do that for yourself. I'm going to stop and ask whether you would like to ask me any questions, and please don't be shy. Okay? Questions? Thank you.
Was the Queen boring?
No, the Queen is not boring, actually. The Queen is amazingly smart. She really is. She is well read. She can talk to you about any subject. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. You might think, oh, she's an elderly, but no, she is very bright, very smart, very interested in the world, and very interested. A great host as well. She took us around Windsor Castle, showing us various, interesting things in the castle. So a great host, fascinating woman. Yes. Yes.
Have you met Prince George yet?
No, I haven't met Prince George as yet. No. Is the hand going up? No. Yes. I go perhaps always at least once, occasionally twice in the year. Yeah. There are several of us who act as chaplain, and I do my chaplaincy at St. James's Palace, not at Buckingham Palace, at St. James. She's very rarely there on weekends. She's usually at Windsor on weekends. Yes.
Were you scared when you seen her?
If I was scared?
Was you scared when you seen her?
To meet her?
Yeah.
No, she's an ordinary woman. What don't be scared of a woman for? She's an ordinary woman. She just happens to carry the title of Her Majesty the Queen. The question is, do I have to sit in a certain way? Not particularly. No, I sat across from her at dinner, next to Prince Edward. Yes?
Did she have one of them really long tables?
Yes, I'm afraid so. It was a long table, beautifully dressed, yes. No, there wasn't any sort of formal ceremony. It was very, somebody invites you for dinner and you sit around and chat and eat. Yes. Sorry? She speaks English. Of course you understand. Yes.
Did you say, like you were little,
What is my dream? Would I have said when I was younger that this is my dream? I think when I was younger I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be a priest. I am a priest and I'm exceptionally happy. So yes, I am living my dream. Yes, sir. What inspired me to want to be a priest? I think I grew up with people around me who, although they were not educated, they had a simple trust. They had a simple trust and a simple belief. They didn't have lots. You know, in our society today, we accumulate lots of stuff. Everything that's new, we've got to have it, etc. It wasn't like that growing up. But yet these people, although they didn't have lots of stuff, they had this amazing, overwhelming trust in God. They believed in God and they lived it. So they talked about, you know, they would say, I will come again and do this if it is God's will. If, you know, they would say when they had nothing, they would say, the Lord would provide. And he did provide. He did provide. So it was from that simple trust that I learned also to depend on God and to have this, you know, yes, I think great inspiration. Yes, sir.
When you said the Queens, what did you eat? Did you eat like posh food?
Oh my goodness. I can't remember the actual thing, but I can tell you that it was all very tiny, small. We didn't have large bits on the plate. It was very tiny bits all, you know, so it was proper posh. Proper posh, but it was delicious. With a different wine for every course. Yes. Do I think I have reached my goal? Wow, that's a very good question. I think I have reached this goal in terms of happiness and being a priest. And actually, I did have an ambition. My greatest ambition was meeting Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu. And I met them both. You know, and to top it all off, I met Barack Obama when he came to Parliament. I was introduced to Barack Obama, and there is in the Church of England, we have a canticle that we say at evening prayer called the Nunc Dimittis, which is a prayer that Simeon said when he met the infant Jesus. He said, Lord, now let your servant depart in peace according to your word, because mine eyes have seen thy salvation. So when I met Barack Obama, I said to him, you are my Nunc Dimittis experience. And he held my hand and he said, man, you look spiff. So I was phoning all my friends in New York saying, what does spiff mean? What does spiff mean? It's very complimentary, I guess. So, yeah. So yes, I'm happy. I have 3 children. I have 1 husband. You know, I love the Lord. Life is good. I'm here with you. Terrific. Other questions? Come on. Yes. Do I still do much work in Jamaica? I go back to Jamaica from time to time. I have been back there to preach on more than one occasion. Actually, every time I go home, I preach. You know, I assisted one of the churches there, and my daughter went out 2 years ago and got married in the same church that I got married in, so that was very special. Yes.
Do you do much charity?
Do I do much charity work? I think so. I would like to think that I do. I've just last month, I slept out in London in Old Spitalfields Market in 2 cardboard boxes. I was frozen to the bone, really cold. And I'm the patron for City YMCA, and we were drawing awareness to youth homelessness. And so we were fundraising, so I got people to sponsor me. I think so far I've raised over £3,000. Any other questions?
Reverend Will, would you like to tell us why you chose this song? You did choose this song, didn't you?
Oh yes, this song. The higher you build your barriers, yes, the taller I become. Yes. I chose that song because in life you are going to find that there will be barriers. People will tell you no. You will go down this road and it will be a cul-de-sac and you can't go any further. And you are going to have to decide, do I just stay stuck here or do I find a way through? When my children were very young, I used to read them a story called Let's Go on a Bear Hunt. And it says you can't get over it, you can't get around it, you can't get under it, got to go through it. And so you're going to have to find a way through. So that's a hugely, thank you, that's a hugely special song to me. The higher you build your barriers, the taller I will become. And I grow taller so that I can cross over it. You get the point? You see that? So when you leave the school, you must be ready and equipped for whatever the barriers that you meet and face. You must get through those barriers. Okay? Bless you.